as it says, protecting your hair. You know, we live in Toronto, it's harsh winters, and I have been protective styling for a long time because I find it's easy, I don't have to bother with my hair, and it's really just tucking your hair away and giving it some time to kind of recoup or just rest it so you can actually move on with your life, because I know for a lot of us natural hair can become very involved. We all have our routines and regimens that we go by, and I think for me personally it is a great way of just allowing your hair to do what it does and protecting it from the elements.
Awesome. Tony, would you like to?
I agree with Splenta. I think protective styling is anything that's low or no manipulation. For me, I've been protective styling before it was coined, protective styling. And especially if you're Caribbean, you know, you always hear that braids will make your hair grow. You know, so we always knew that it did something, but now we realize that it's not making your hair grow, it just helps retain that length. So that's my definition of it.
And Janet?
What they said.
I wanted to know
a question for me. Okay.
I want to know if you could list some protective stylings, because I know that not everyone here would be familiar necessarily with that coined term.
Okay, so protective styling, there's weaving, there's braiding, there's twisting, pretty much what the two beautiful women just said, in terms of protecting the hair from the environment. So anything that allows your hair to be tucked away and not being affected by the cold, heat, that kind of thing.
Does anybody have anything they want to add?
I agree.
So then I asked Kina, what would you say are some of the benefits of protective styling beyond just the idea of keeping it away from the environment?
Well, there's lots of benefits to protective styling. Definitely you're keeping your ends nice and tucked away. It's more susceptible to damage, so as long as you're not touching it, if you can keep it away for about 5 to 7 days, that's a good protective style. Something that you're not going through and you're not interrupting your curl pattern or your hair. And that just helps it to preserve the length and preserve your ends from breaking.
Thank you. So I asked the audience with a show of hands, who here, now that you've heard the definition of protective styling, actually engages in protective styling on a regular basis? So then, Nisi, I'd like to ask you, what do you feel are some important factors that people here should consider when getting a protective style?
Speak into the microphone.
I would just say to make sure that you're not keeping it in for so long, to the point where you're not taking care of your hair underneath. Like if you're wearing a wig or a weave or something like that, you gotta make sure that you're always taking care of your hair underneath, whether it's deep conditioning, moisturizing, sealing, all that stuff. Sorry, I'm nervous right now. But yeah, that's all.
So then, Janet, with what she's saying about maintaining it, I'd like to ask you, what do you think are a few things people need to know in terms of the best way to maintain or upkeep that protective style?
I actually wanted to add to the protective styling. Can you hear me? Do I have to? I wanted to add that if the protective styling is not done properly, it can actually damage the hair. So a lot of people need to keep that in mind. If it's kept tight, it can damage the hair. If it's not done properly, it can damage the hair. As simple as doing a full-on weave, extensions, whatever you want to call it. If it's not braided properly, it will damage the hair. If you're not moisturizing your scalp, it will damage your hair. So when we say protective styling, I know a lot of women of color think that they can just tuck it away and just leave it. That's not the case, because you'll cause more damage to the hair. So we need to keep that in mind, that even though we're doing protective styling, that we do need to take care of what's going on underneath.
Perfect. So that leads me directly into my next question. Jenny, if you guys can feel free to answer. At what point does a protective style go from protecting to damaging a person's hair?
main thing is keeping your scalp nice and clean and hydrated, and just making sure that you're not keeping it, as Janet said, for an extensive period of time. I think anywhere from like 4 to 6 weeks is enough for a week. I don't see people like to prolong it. I just feel that it's good to take it out, wash your hair. There's a lot of shedding that happens within that time period, so sometimes you might feel like, oh my gosh, so much of my hair is coming out. But really, it's just that you need to detangle, get some of that shedded hair out, trim it, make sure it's nice and healthy on the ends, make sure your scalp is nice and clean. But that's the main part, is like keeping your scalp clean, because healthy hair can't grow out of a damaged scalp.
I just want to add that, you know what, a lot of us, and I am guilty of just being penny white and pound foolish, because you want to get the most out of that protective style. You spend $120 and go for 120 days with that. In that case, I mean, you are opening up your hair to all manners of evil. I've had that happen. I mean, just laziness to take it out and just wanting to get my money's worth. And most of the friends that I have that do protective styling will weaves. That's the whole point, because they buy the hair, it's expensive. They install it, it's expensive, and it ends up doing more harm than good. So just bear that in mind. We have to be more conscious of what is good for ourselves and our hair, and not make choices based on cheapness. Okay?
I say something. I kind of disagree. I know with my clients in particular, I tell them the longest they can keep a weave-in is 3 months. Mind you, they need to make sure they're washing it on a regular basis. They need to make sure they're moisturizing their scalp. And to tell you the truth, the majority of my clientele that keep it no longer than 3 months, we have a lot of people that have just great healthy hair. So I think in terms of the longevity of your weave is based on an individual basis, because some people's hair can actually withstand a weave for the 3 months, and then there's some people's hair who definitely can't. So I think that's an individual thing. Yeah.
Okay, so then the question I would ask you with that is, what advice would you give to someone who's preparing to do their first takedown or uninstall of their first protective style?
Is that question for me? For any of you.
Well, for me personally, okay, so here's the deal. And if you follow me on Instagram, you know exactly what happened. I went and got crochet braids last week, Saturday. As you can see, there are no crochet braids in my head because I took them down. But typically, this is an ongoing thing for me. I mean, I haven't been that great with protective styling lately because I don't do my hair except for twist outs and braid outs myself. Like if I'm going to get my hair braided, I get somebody to do it. Glenn has done my hair before, the crochet braids. I tried to experiment with this girl on Kijiji. It just wasn't good for me. But typically, and I must emphasize this because I have friends that are stylists, you have to prepare your hair before you go in to do these things. Wash your hair. First and foremost, you can't go to somebody's place of business and go with dirty hair. Wash it. I typically wash my hair the night before, blow it out a bit because you want to because not everybody is kind of tuned to dealing with natural hair. I'm not saying blow your hair because my hair is blown out right now from that whole thing last week. So blow out your hair, kind of flatten it out. You don't have to even use a curling iron. Just, hold your hair, blow it out, and make sure that it's a very pleasant experience for both yourself and the stylist, because not everybody, you have to understand, handles natural hair with the great care that they need to. So I emphasize that and do a deep treatment of some sort, or protein treatment before, because your hair is not going to you're not going to be really do that during the time that, specifically for braids, that you have it in. So that's my tip for that.
I would just say that then we'd like to go a step further from that and look into, now that you've prepped your hair for putting in that protective style, we need to prepare you for that process of when you're going to take it out. What do you do before you take it out? What are those key things to remember at that day? You know, you've had your weave in for a certain amount of time, and your head is scratching or whatever the case may be, and you want it out. What should they do that day that they're going to take it out, or even a day or two before?
Sometimes I find that I have clients, they take their hair out, they don't brush it before they actually wash it, and it gets tangled and extremely matted. So instead of dealing with that, a great thing to do is maybe trim your hair first before you actually put your braids in if you haven't had a trim for a while. So that way when you're taking out your hair, there's less tangles, as well as brushing it. Like, give it a brush before you actually wash it. And make sure that you are using a moisturizing shampoo, something that's not going to dry it out, something that's going to actually help with the detangling process, and definitely deep treating your hair. I think it's just major for that. Another thing is, I would say wait a little while, especially if you have a very tender scalp, before you go ahead and do your next protective style. Give it a little bit of time. Give your hair some time to breathe, your scalp some time to kind of get healthier again, just from the elements of just letting the air hit it, and just, maybe give it a week or so before you do it again. I just don't think it's good to do it one after the other, especially if you have to do this scalp.
Yeah, I just wanted to add. Oh yeah, I just wanted to add to what she said. Like, she said that that you should brush your hair out before you actually wash it. But for me personally, like, I can't do that. My hair will just not take it. I had to go in the shower, put like a whole bunch of conditioner and everything, and then I had to like brush it out and everything. And I actually did my first protective style. Not first, but like I did braids for the first time. And I thought I lost so much hair. So much hair came out, and I was like, oh my gosh, but it wasn't that bad.
So then I see both Tony and Janet shaking your head. Is there something that you wanted to add to that?
I'd like to say that in order for this conversation to be beneficial to everyone, I think we need to differentiate between home care and professional services. Because I feel like what you guys are saying is for someone who's taking care of their hair at home. Whereas I'm a professional, I'm going to tell you, come to me. I'm going to tell you, if you want to remove your extensions, come to me. Don't cut it out yourself because you're going to cut your own hair. I'm going to tell you, don't try washing your hair yourself because it's going to get all tangled. Leave it to the professionals who know exactly what to do with hair after extensions in order for you to have less damage. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. So yes, there's things that you can do at home in terms of removing it, but I would never suggest that. I would never tell you to cut your extensions out on your own. The least you can do is get a friend to cut it out, your hubby, your partner, whatever. But I think we need to differentiate between the two because it can become very confusing for someone who has no clue to what we're talking about.
Yes, I agree. Is there anything you wanted to add, Tony?
I think the main thing is just to give yourself time, whether you're going to a professional or whether you're doing it yourself at home. If you know you have work Monday at 9 a.m., don't start Sunday 8 p.m. because you will end up ripping your braids out. I've done it, right? You want to be very patient. You want to make sure you have a lot of time, full day, nothing planned, and just. I think that's the best way.
With that, I'd like to go a step further by making note to that extends beyond just your protective styling. That is with your own hair. So when you're at night, if you have natural hair, if you have relaxed hair, when it comes time to doing your hair, don't wait till that absolute last minute. Yes, you have a whole bunch of other things to do, but take a moment for yourself, do your hair, because you'll feel better about that the next day. You don't want to be having hair that's not dry. You don't want to end up having hair that's matted and tangled. Or you don't want to start having a lot of breakage because you're rushing, you're pulling very hard and fast and trying to get all those tangles out. So take the time, whether it's protective styling or natural hair, to make sure that you get the best out of any style you're doing.
Can I also add something? She had mentioned before that she can't brush her hair out dry. And that's also for everyone to have an understanding of what your curl type is, because every curl type is treated differently. So someone like Nisi who has hair like this, you cannot brush this out dry. You do in fact have to wet it, and then you can comb it out, whether it be with a leave-in conditioner, to get the tangles out, and then move forward with your shampoo. But then if you have a type 4 curl pattern, then that's when you definitely need to brush it out, comb it out before washing so you have less tangling. So it's really about understanding what your curl pattern is before you can actually take any of this into consideration. So do your research.
Yeah.
It's all out there online.
Okay, so then moving from there, I'd like to note that most recently we've had a surge in the amount of information and conversation revolving around natural hair as a whole. I do recognize that not everyone in the room will have natural hair. Most of these same principles still apply to the concept of having relaxed hair. No matter what style or preference you have with your hair, everything is about moisture and care. It's not just natural hair do this, then relaxed hair do that. You need to make sure that you're constantly taking care of your hair. So with that said, we are now provided with a lot of information surrounding both the techniques and the sourcing of the extensions that we're getting these days. Is there really a difference in the quality of hair when we talk about synthetic versus virgin versus the now outdated term of human hair? What is the difference there? So any of you can start.
There is a difference. That's what the conversation is like. You get what you pay for at the end of the day. Synthetic hairs tend to dry the hair out more. I don't advise anyone to use synthetic hairs. It's just going to add more work for you. Our hair is naturally dry, so if you're adding synthetics to it, it's going to make it drier. So the best thing to do is to actually put your money into buying good quality hair, especially if you're someone like myself. I wear weave all the time, and I make sure that I buy the best, only because I know that that's who I am, and I take care of my hair, so I'm going to buy extensions accordingly.
So with that said though, when is that specifically going to weave as a conversation versus say braids? Because would that be suggesting that people say buy the more expensive human hair, cut it off a track and then use that to braid their hair? Or should they be sticking with the Kanekalans?
Absolutely. At our salon, we only use human hair to braid your hair if we're doing a weave. The Kanekalon, the synthetic stuff, dries your hair out. End of story. If you can't afford to buy more expensive hair, then take the time to moisturize your hair even more so. But there is a difference. If you're using human hair to braid your hair, if you're someone who always braids your hair, and if you do an experiment and try the synthetic hair versus the human hair, you'll notice your hair is not as dry as it would be if you use the synthetic stuff. You'll notice less shedding, that expressions hair that you use, shedding. I mean, your hair sheds on a daily basis, but it'll be less. So it's absolutely important to buy the best out there. And a lot of the stuff that's out there in the Asian stores, sorry to say, is garbage. So you need to actually read the fine print because it'll say human hair, and then in small you'll see blended. You need to actually pay attention to that and use the best stuff in your hair.
So we'll go from that space. If anybody has any rebuttals or any statements to add, you can. So you guys all nodding, so I got enough of this all agreement?
I think ideally that is perfect for people who weave and so on. And I know as a professional, I would think that that's the best route to go, especially for braids and so on, because you really want to minimize any damage and dryness to your hair because aesthetically it's already dry. But I find, even with myself, I'm not going to go buy human hair to braid my hair because I know how transient I am. I'm going to whip that thing out in probably 4 weeks and go put in something else. So what I focus on though is just really trying to upkeep the hair as much as possible. As you said, Janet, moisturizing and so on, because raise your hands, guys, if you're going to go out there and buy human hair, like how many 30 inches long to braid your hair? You know, a lot of us don't because we just don't see the economics of it and, you know, installing it, put it in and all of that. So I would emphasize that you just take care of your hair. Moisturize your scalp. Try and, you know, wash it, like run some ACV down through it, get off some of the dirt and all of that stuff. Because I think for most of us, we try to be as cost effective as possible to our detriment sometimes.
And I
guess that would be the line at the end to our detriment, where potentially by using what some would call maybe even inferior hair, we do open ourselves up to the opportunity for it to be damaged. But that is why she made a point of saying that you need to maintain that hair by making sure that it's properly moisturized, well maintained, and also it's a good thing to sometimes take out that braid and redo it, refresh it. Don't let that braid pull down too far, especially on your hairline, and leave it there pulling it up into your bun, because tension, 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 tension. So,
And I'd like to say too, sorry, I mentioned before about keeping the weave in for 3-4 months, and I'm talking about human hair. If you're using synthetics, you need to take that bad boy out sooner. Don't even look at it. But people do it. People like it.
Do a giveaway!
So the next question I have is directed to each of you to say, why do you choose to wear protective styles? And if so, what is your go-to style? Each of you can answer.
So for me, I think it's important, like the rest of the ladies were saying, to give your hair a break. But I also think it's important to give yourself a break from your hair. And especially for us YouTubers, our channels are not necessarily meant to teach you guys. I think it's important for you to learn your own hair. But I think we're more here to inspire. You know what I mean? So, and I think that sometimes we can get fed up with our hair. Our hair is difficult at times. Our hair is time consuming at times. And our lives are multifaceted. It's not just about hair. We're going home right now to deal with a lot of other things on our table. So sometimes I think it's important to take a step back and give yourself a break from your hair. That way you don't have to necessarily fall back on things like cutting it off if that's not what your ultimate goal is, or relaxing if that's not what your ultimate goal is. So that's how I use protective styling. It's really to give myself a break from my own hair, especially during the times when I'm busy with other things that are going on in my life.
I have hectic schedules. I'm a wife, mom, business owner, all of that and then some. So for me, taking care of my natural hair, it's another chore. At the end of the day, it's a chore. So for me, it's all convenience.
For me, I really don't put my hair in protective style that much. I just started doing braids and twists and stuff, and that's only when I go on vacation. So for me, the only reason I do it is also for convenience. Sometimes I really just don't want to do anything to my hair as well. I just want to get up and go. So that's it.
I agree with all the ladies. Like, it's just overwhelming sometimes, especially when you're busy. You know, like being a stylist myself, I'm always doing everyone else's hair. Ain't nobody doing my hair. So I gotta find a way how to deal with my hair in the times when I'm rushing and I need to get out the house to be at X, Y, and Z at certain times. For me, I like to throw my wig on. I hand make my wigs so I can be creative with them. And I just find it's easier. And you know, like if you're gonna be wearing a wig, the main thing is just the tension, you know, the clips, the tension. And if you're wearing it properly, you won't see damage. But again, you don't want to overdo anything too much because, you know, at the end of the day, you want to do what's healthy for the hair and give it a break here and there.
For me, it's the same thing. And mainly, I mean, I have a husband who kind of resents the amount of time I spend on my hair. So, and I do have a YouTube channel, which he understands, but at the same time, he does not understand why hair has to be such take up so much of my time, you know, when we have stuff to go do and so on. But for me, I mean, I'm doing it for myself, and I'm doing it because, number one, the health of my hair, and number two, for time for myself that I need to go about my life.
That comes from the conversation that a lot of women have out there, especially on the internet, on YouTube videos. When they see a woman put in their weave or their braids, they think that you're not really being natural anymore because you've now installed this protective hairstyle.
I think everybody's gonna have their own perspective on what is what, you know. Somebody just walking on the street's gonna look at you and be like, oh, she has a weave, you know. She's an appreciate her natural hair, but to you, it could just be, no, I don't want to deal with this right now, you know? And who cares what anyone else thinks? To me, I don't care. I wear it, I don't care what you think. My hair is natural, I don't have to prove anything. That's it.
Thank you.
I think the subject has been an unnecessary source of debate over the years in the natural hair community, where it's gotten to a point very ridiculous that even if you color your hair, you're not considered to be natural.
Right.
I don't know where this stems from. I don't know how putting in a weave that is protecting your hair, if it's done properly, has become a source of just discontent among naturals because you have your own point of view as to what you think is natural and what's not. So for me, my own advice is do what you gotta do. Just make sure that you're doing whatever you have to do to your hair properly, professionally. If you can't do your own hair, go to a professional. I went natural about 18 years ago, and I did not have the support to, as far as stylists that I could go to help me take care of my hair, because I was relaxed for a number of years, like since a teenager. I won't tell you how old I am. But, I think now that we have the internet, we have so many sources of, and ways of educating ourselves on here. This debate is just very unnecessary to me. Where you're going to call somebody out because they have a color in their hair and question how natural they are. So, just leave it. Your own individual self speaks to you, and you do whatever you have to do. And I think that should be enough because it's your hair, right?
And I don't understand why people are worried about what the next person's doing. That's what do your own thing.
I will note for any of the people that do have that type of conversation happening that coloring your hair is a completely different conversation in terms of protective styling, as that is a chemical process that is being done to your hair as opposed to adding in an extension or just braiding your own hair or twisting your own hair. That is a separate entity, which is a conversation in itself between color versus natural and what is real natural and fake natural, as opposed to the conversation of, I tuck my hair away all the time. Am I natural because you've never seen it, right? So with that, I would like to ask the audience a question do you feel you receive different treatment based on your hairstyle? If you agree with that, please raise your hand. If you disagree, please raise your hand. So, if you disagree, we'll start with you, and we'll move on. Okay, remember, this here is for the opportunity to everyone to express their opinions, to be open to say what they think. So, Kia?
I think it really depends on your environment. Are you in a corporate setting? Are you around people who are artistically free to do whatever they want to do and express themselves through the way how they're dressed, the way how they express their hair? For me, I'm a hairstylist. I'm comfortable no matter what setting I'm in, because hair, long or short, I'm still gonna look fly. So. Right.
And for you ladies that agreed with the fact that you do receive different treatment, how would you like to respond?
I actually don't. So I'm actually one of the ones that disagree. I think when I'm wearing my natural hair or my Tony wig, I get more attention, so I'll get more compliments because it's bigger and it's more in your face. But I don't necessarily get treated differently if I have a straight wig or if I have my hair straightened or braids. I get the same treatment, it's just that I get noticed more when I have my hair. I say that.
So then, with that,
I agree with you in terms of where you're working. I work with a lot of television personalities, and that's not acceptable. You know what I'm saying? So it really, again, depends on where you're working. They wouldn't hire you as a news anchor because of your hair. Do you get what I'm saying? So I don't think we should dismiss the fact that it's not out there. It is. You do get treated different depending on where you're working, what kind of atmosphere you're in. At the end of the day, that is what it is.
See, and that leads directly into the question I was going to ask everyone here. When you received that treatment, was it more positive when you were wearing a protective style? If yes, raise your hand. When you received different treatment based on your hair, was it more positive when you were wearing a protective style? So your braid, your weave, your twist, whatever. And who received more positive reinforcement when they were just in their natural or relaxed state? And any of you, do you feel that you've got more positive with your protective style or with your natural hair?
I get more positive with my natural hair. I get more positive reinforcement with my natural hair. I think it's just because it's cropped. I can be like walking on the red carpet with this hair, or I can just go about my daily business and it'll still look good. It's well managed. It's not frizzy. It's not dry. So I don't get any negative feedback at all.
I think for me, I get positives from both sides because I don't really often do protective style. So when I do, it's like, oh my gosh, she did a protective style. So I get positives from both my natural hair when it's out and when it's protected as well.
I think for me, it's more of a different kind of reaction and curiosity as to what I've done with my hair. I work in the corporate world, and I wear my hair natural for most of the times, twist outs and braid outs and so on, but when I switch it up with braids, it's almost like, who are you? You know, it's a very conservative environment, a lot of Caucasians, and they are really curious in a positive way about what I've done with my hair. And I really do take the time to explain that to them. So I think it's never negative, and it's always an input as to what they prefer. Candace, I like you with your curly hair more, or something else, you know what I mean? They kind of like the braid sometimes, but it's always positive, and I embrace that because I just use that as a way of educating them about my hair and Black people's hair, you know what I mean? And I really I relish doing that.
That leads me directly into the question that I was going to ask the audience in terms of the fact, when you get that treatment where you're treated a little different based on all the people that said yes to protective styling, did that prompt you to make any life decisions? Did you now have that protective style for when you go to work? Do you have that particular style every time you go on a date? Do you do that anytime you're going to vacation? Now that you've had that positive treatment based on that hairstyle, has it now made a role in your life? Yes? Please raise your hand. Okay, that's good. And any of you? That's good. Okay, so to you guys, I want to know, even though you have said that it is in a space where, everyone's been kind of generally accepting of your protective styles versus your natural hair, what would you say, though, is that one hairstyle, whether protective or in its natural state, that people give you the most attention or the most commentary on? So is your hair in braids? Is your hair weaved at that point? Is it a Tony wig? Is it in your biggest, baddest braid out? Like, what is that hairstyle?
Like a positive feedback.
My hair is fabulous on its own. So I tend to get questions a lot regarding my hair because they think it looks good. Right? So I've had really a positive experience being natural, and I know a lot of people have not had that. My family supports me a lot because my mom has always been a very Afrocentric woman who wore like a low, what do you call it, souls back in the day, Jamaica, when it wasn't cool. And for me, that was just, it was never problematic for me to be natural. So I think, what was the question again? Everything about me or I'm here in this natural shape has been positive.
You know, I was waiting for that. But don't worry, the question then is what is that style? So it's more so just to answer what that style is. So it's like, even though yes, you've had all these positive experiences, I can say for myself that when my hair is like truly in a braid out, like 4 days in, I'm chilling, probably didn't even wash my hair before that 4 days, it's just a kind of cold wash, now setting it out, letting it go, my hair's big, bad, all over the place, that's when people are stopping me. That's when I have people trying to touch my hair, that's when people are trying to take pictures with me. Those are those points when, especially when my hair was like mid-back length and it was truly big, that's when I had people being like, yes. So then I can admit that I had those moments where if I knew I was going somewhere special, boy, that's when the braid up came up because it needed to go with my outfit. So that's why I come to ask you guys, what is that hairstyle for you?
This is it, you know. It's like, this is my second day, so it's not as defined as it could be on the first day. But this is it, and I get a lot of good feedback from men and women, surprisingly. Men actually like natural hair. Some do. They really do. You know, they might not say it, but they want to touch it and stuff, you know.
For me, it's what I have my hair right now. Definitely, people just be like looking at me down the street. I'm like, okay, is that a good thing or a bad thing? But yeah, definitely like this. When my hair is in a wash and go, like an old wash and go, a couple days old, and it gets like bleach.
Everyone likes big hair.
Yeah.
Like, it's just nice just to see someone with big hair from across the room. It just looks good. You know?
For me, the bigger the better.
Do you just feel like switching it up sometimes? Or like, because everyone knows you, like with this style, you just stick with this style?
I do switch it up. I love this, and I find I get more attention with this. The work that I do, this. I've tried other stuff, and I don't get the same
And that's exactly what I'm talking
response.
about.
I really don't. Especially when I do television work, when they see me come with this big. So for me, it's the bigger the better. I find that if it's like I've done the straight hair, but I don't get that.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't get that response from people.
Sometimes if I want to blend in, I wear my straight, like I straighten out my wigs and I wear it.
Exactly. When you're straight, it's kind of
I
like
just blend in and no one really notices me. Sometimes I just want to go about my business and I don't want to be noticed.
Mind you, with afros though, now that it's becoming in, we're in now. So the bigger your afro is, the more attention you will get.
Are you agree?
Yeah, mine is definitely an afro. So not a braid out twist up, but an actual afro.
Picked out?
I did a video recently on my YouTube channel. It was a Darren Stern inspired look. She's the first black Playboy bunny on the cover of Playboy, and it was a full-on afro. And I went out that day and I couldn't go more than 2 feet.
So, back to even focusing on the conversation of protective styling, we noticed that the main point of contention is the weave versus natural weave. So, my question then becomes, is a weave still a protective style when a woman feels naked or even dependent on that, where they feel like they're missing something when they're in between weave sessions?
I don't understand that question.
So it's to say, that woman that wears a weave all the time, that like,
No, I
say
heard
it's
you.
okay.
It's like,
But it hits you. It hits you. Well, that's why the question's being asked.
I think it has to do with identity, you know, like, this is my identity, and like, some people don't like to switch it up all the time. For me, I like to switch it up all the time, so people are not going to recognize me, but some people just like to be recognized as like, this is me, and so when they take that away, it just feels naked. Yeah, it will feel naked because you don't have all that hair on your head like you used to, so, I mean, it will feel different, but you know, some people, it goes beyond that, like, you know, it goes more into political things, you know, like,
But it's still protecting your hair though. At the end of the day, it's still protecting your hair. So I
So
don't
is it
understand.
a natural wearing a weave that we're specifically talking about?
Right now, we're going general, we'll get into.
Is it generally somebody
A
who's,
woman that just always has on a weave, just
because she's relaxed under there, she's not trying to protect anything, she's just doing this because she wants to do
But
it.
it's still protecting.
But it's, yeah, there's a twofold thing to it. You're protecting, and then there's a comfort zone thing to it.
If you're covering up your hair, you're still protecting
Yes,
your hair.
that the argument isn't about the phrase of protecting. The argument is in the space of being when you are so dependent on coining it protecting, we'll say. We won't even call it protecting, where you just always have your hair in that weave. We call it a protective style because that is the category that's now found itself in. Because before, a weave wasn't part of the protective styling. A weave was a weave. A woman's a weave, you knew her and a weave. You didn't have that as a space of being like, the natural is weaving her hair to protect her hair.
But
She
we're
was
now
wearing a weave.
understanding that weaves do protect the hair, so now we are calling it
And
protective.
that's why we ask, is a woman that is always in a weave, and the minute she takes it out, nobody sees her, she hides it, she stays home for a week until she's had enough time to get the shit, and goes and puts in her next install. Is that woman still protective styling?
I'm that person. I am that person, but believe it or not, my hair is down to here. It is all natural. My thing is a preference, and at the end of the day, I am addicted to extensions, the bigness, all of that. And you know what? Everyone has their own addiction.
But see, you're willing to admit that, and that's what
I
the
am willing to
conversation
admit
is.
it. I'm addicted. If you have all these anonymous out there, I'm that person. I really am.
You know what? I was that person. I mean, growing up, the kids call me Weedy Wonder at school. Like, they've never seen my hair. And so to go from that to now, like, nothing was a huge change. But you get, it's a comfort zone, yeah. And you have to break out of that comfort zone if you want to change. And I wanted to change, so I did it. And the feedback that I get now is actually, it's a good feedback. I don't have all that hair in my head. I feel sort of naked sometimes, but at the same time, I feel free, you know?
But who are we changing for?
But see, that's not what the conversation is about, trying to tell anyone to change what they're doing.
If I'm
It's just about
comfortable
getting them
like
to think
this,
about it.
why? If I'm comfortable like this, if you're comfortable like that, who are you changing for? But you do. If you choose, right? But if I'm comfortable, if I'm which you are, yeah, right. I know. I'm changing for me.
But see, this conversation isn't even about changing. Like, I'm not gonna go to someone that always is with me like, can you take that out? No. This conversation is just to say, is that person really protective styling? Or is it now a different category where the weave is now a replacement for hair? Nobody sees that hair, it's nothing. It might as well be growing from your head because it is always there.
Yeah, but then now you're back to protective styling.
But that's why we're trying to distinguish. Is it really a protective style for that
I
person?
think so.
But, guys, we have to think about it in a sense that not everybody knows the jargon that goes along with this whole natural hair thing. I think half the world out there who are weaving and are not, have nothing to do with the natural world, they don't even know what protective styling is. So we have to be specific to what we are dealing with here, as far as we belong to a family of natural hair people, and I know not everybody in here is, but I mean, it would depend on what that individual knows and what they see themselves as, because not everybody that is wearing a weave knows what the term means.
So some would argue that the pressure and desire to achieve the highest level of hair amazingness. So that is for the people being on TV, that's for your everyday life, that's for everywhere. You just want to have the best possible hair for the circumstance you're in. Would you say that and the subsequent occasional failure to maybe get the best twist out or get the best braid out might lead people to have an extra incentive to wear protective styling, which is what you then said, yes, the women on TV, they want to wear the protective style all the time. They need to make sure that they're not damaging their hair. But it goes a step further. There are the people that are trying to worry about whether or not they're going to damage their hair, and there's a group of people that won't be bothered. And those people have a different level of consciousness than the people that are saying, yes, I'm wearing this weave because I don't want to straighten my hair every day. I don't want to have to color my hair, so I'm going to wear the blonde weave for this photo shoot. Those are two very different consciousnesses. To be able to say, you know what, I'm wearing this weave because today I need a break, I don't want to damage it, then I'm wearing this weave because that is the hairstyle that I'd like to have right now. Those are two different thought processes. So when I say that, I'd ask, do you feel that protective styling is just a creative way for women to assimilate to society's beauty yardstick? To assimilate to society's beauty yardstick. So in grander ways of saying that would be, is that for people to assimilate to society's view of beauty? And I say yardstick because it is not, now in this day in our conversations we're having, and the fact that there's been multiple even Black events this month, the yardstick is a little wider. It's not just only the white woman with straight hair, the Asian woman with straight jet black hair. It is not including curls, but it's including a certain type of curls. Those are the looser curl patterns. They're the women that will be on TV first. So when you're buying that weave, are you going to TonyDaly.com and buying a Tony wig with the kinks and the coils and everything, or are you buying more of a Janet style wig, where it's a looser, more subdued, longer, you're able to see that curl pattern without any type of manipulation being used. So that's why we ask, is it just a creative way for a woman to assimilate to society's beauty yardstick?
I think, honestly, it can be. But I think it's only up to the individual to admit whether that's the case. Some women genuinely want to protect their hair 24/7 for some reason. Some women genuinely, it's a crutch, right? And even if you look at it like makeup, right? Some of us put on makeup when we're going to an event. Some of us put on makeup when we're going to an event, or every time we leave the house. Some of us put on makeup when we're going to an event, when we leave the house, and we're in the house. You know what I mean? Is it because we get a brown skin, or is it because we want to accentuate what we have? It's only up to us to decide. You can't tell me that I hate my skin because I'm wearing makeup. Just like I can't tell her that she hates her hair because she's wearing weave. Right. Yeah. That's the bottom line. Right? I like that.
I'll just let Tony take that.
Tony takes the mic.
But even just as to say devil's advocate, even when you have those women that do wear their makeup all the time in the house 24/7, you don't even know what they look like, otherwise not even their husband, they get up in the morning before he wakes up. We know that, especially in the early stage of the dating, there's always one woman that does that. You get up in the morning, you're like, gotta fix my hair, wash your teeth, get yourself ready before he wakes up. So, with that said, if we apply that same principle to natural hair, or to weaves, or to braids, when a woman or a man even takes the opportunity to always be in that protective styling versus taking the opportunity to explore the other spaces, being comfortable in their own skin, or even that makeup person, are they still taking care of their skin? That is the same concept when it comes to hair. Can you say that it is just anybody's idea, or is it just the new version of the curve? Is
So
it
are
now?
you saying that because I wear a weave all the time, I'm not comfortable in my own skin?
No, that's not the question. It's a question of saying, the question is, can you make that argument for people? It's not to say that yes, you are not, it's can you make that argument by the fact that you are always in the weave? Is there an argument there that is valid to say that you may have less of a comfort zone with being able to go through the process of manipulating your hair on a regular basis to wear it in its natural state versus always being in a protective style?
I think at that point you're getting not into the politics of natural hair, but the psychology behind it. So at the end of the day, I mean, it's really based on the individual. And you know, as Tony said, there are a lot of people who wear weaves just because they don't want to, they're not comfortable not being in a weave. A lot of people aren't. And it's a stage where they're building up that confidence, maybe if they're on a natural journey or trying to go natural, that they will eventually do so, but it's at that time when they're comfortable to do so. So there are just many variables to this, and I can't speak for those people, but I know that people judge people who wear weaves all the time, not knowing really why they wear them. And I don't care, because They know what they're dealing with. They know what their comfort level is, and they know what they feel confident. I think the basis of everything is for a woman to be able to, or a man, to step out confidently on a daily basis and be happy with what they have on their head, regardless of it's a weave, your natural hair, or whatever. So that's my opinion.
So with that leads to my next question, which, do you feel that wearing your hair is better than wearing extensions? If yes or no, why? Better. I'm using it in quotations because there's lots of different interpretations of the word better. But do you personally feel that wearing your hair in whatever style you choose to wear it, that's not the argument, but wearing your hair, either way it comes up your skin or if you're wearing a relaxer, but wearing that versus putting on a protective style, which do you think is better? Do you think it's better to wear it? Me? I personally, I prefer to have my natural hair. I do not have any, what can I say? I have no qualms with the idea of wearing the occasional weave, wearing a wig. I own wigs. I wear them when I need to do something. I just have a baby that some people hear in the background. If I need to do something, it's going to go on. I don't have the type of time. But I don't feel that I have any type of dependency on any of those things. If I put one in, I don't feel I need to keep it in for any particular length of time. I don't feel that it needs to be a particular type of wig. It's whatever catches my fancy. If I see your hair right now, I'm like, I want some color in the tips. I might do it. If I see you in your weave, I'm like, wonder where she got it. I'm not going to ask you, but I might go up I'm just that type of person, and I know that I don't speak for everyone. I'm also the type of person that can understand the consciousness that comes with the idea that wearing those protective styles is taking away from my identity of being a natural woman. But we'll get further into that a little bit later. But for
thing that seems, I don't know when it started, I don't know why it started. I know within my little nucleus of girls that I hang out with, people I've known, there are probably 3 of us in the group of people that I've grown up with, women, 10 to 12 ladies that most of them wear weaves, most of them are relaxed. And we've never had issues within our circle because we know Donna, she does love our weave, and she knows her weave. So we come to her with natural talking about Janet, okay? So, and the relaxer girls in my little circle, I'm not trying to convert nobody, okay? Not because I'm on YouTube and all that stuff, because I know that that's what they've chosen to do. So I don't know when this has become this bone of contention within. And you know what? It stems from the whole natural hair community too. Because why is it that we're gonna think, not me, some people think they're holier than thou or have something above somebody else who chooses to do something differently with their hair. And I don't understand it, I can't comprehend it, and I don't even address that.
I think the question should be why natural and why relaxer. I think it's more beneficial if we discuss between natural hair relaxers rather than natural hair and weaving. Because again, it's a preference. If you want to get into natural hair and relaxing, I'm going to tell you to become a natural person because it's better for you. Yes. Period.
See, but that even if we take both your points into that and say that she did comment on the idea of it being a problem that people have those moments of contention, but we have to take that into consideration that those are still different conversations. Because when people are having that conversation about being relaxed versus natural, if we take out any militants, no matter what conversation we have, one week even, we take out any of the outliers. So those people that people now coin, like, the natural Nazis and all that type of stuff, the coin phrases for those people that are, anybody that they see out there, they're going to even hand you a card, tell you, you need to go natural now, da 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 da. There's a difference between that person that will leave out there as the outlier, and even the super relaxed person that will be like, you need to relax that now, take out those two people.
But that's the issue there too. That's an image thing, and that's
I know,
something
and
that
yeah.
I have a problem with that.
Yes,
but
and that's where I was coming to.
extensions and natural hair, I don't really see where.
But see, this is where I was coming to the fact that there's an argument to be had in that, separate from the conversation about whether or not a person wants to be natural or if they come from a consciousness that makes them feel that the way the hair came out of your scalp is the way that it is most beautiful and the way that it should be treasured in. worn and cared for and presented at all times. Separate from that argument, now we go one step further. So we're taking from that group of women that all of us here have natural hair. We all embrace that natural hair. Whatever the separate ideologies we'll get to soon are, we all at the base of that are natural hair women. So why do some women prefer in that group to always be in a protective style versus the women that are choosing to be natural? That's the moment of contention that we're looking for. Not to say the women that are relaxed versus the people that wear weave versus.
Time. Like for me, I'd rather spend time doing my makeup in the morning than doing my hair. You know, so it all boils down to how much time do you want to spend on yourself, and like, you know, are you differentiating yourself because you think you're better than somebody else because you're wearing your hair, you know, natural? I mean, even it's psychological. It goes political. I mean, this topic it's just so broad.
Natural. The girls that I work with are not natural. They actually wanted to fight me because I'm like, what's wrong with, not telling them about natural hair, but what's wrong with natural hair? They literally say, well, I look ugly. So my question is that, because there's a few of you that are TV personalities, so that means, say, our kids are going to be looking up to you, right? All of you are absolutely stunning, beautiful. They're not looking at the Flo Joe down the street. They're not. They're looking at you ladies, right? How do you address those microaggressions so that when they come out, they understand that regardless of personal choice, they are beautiful? How do you address that?
Can I say something? We gotta look at the parents, you know, because if the parents they finally wear their hair up for once, and the mother or the father or the auntie or the uncle is saying, man, your hair don't look good, then they're gonna think that their hair and that they're not gonna be happy with themselves. But
Her name is Janet. Hi. So I was just wondering, because you made the comment earlier about, right, like never leaving the house without weave and so forth, and because of your job, which I can relate to because I'm a belly dancer, and so I have to have length. I will rock a fro all the time, but unfortunately because of my work as well, I do have to have length based on certain choreographies or whatever. But will you ever leave the house with your natural hair, and if not, I ask why?
Oh, I'll leave with my natural hair. I have no issues with my natural hair. Again, it's just all about convenience. And I'm being so honest with you. I'm not balding under here. It's really about convenience. It really is.
It's just easier for you to just
It
get
is
up and
easier
go.
for me. Sometimes my morning starts at 4 in the morning, 3 in the morning. I don't have the time to be like styling my natural hair. And at the same time, I have to show up presentable. So I can't show up in a head tie, I can't show up in a hat. I have to look the look. So again, it's all convenience for me. And it is a choice.
Tell them, girl.
Everyone, I just have a couple of comments based on the first question about relaxed, natural in terms of kids. I think it's a bunch of semantics, and if you're relaxed or natural, as long as you love yourself and who you are, either with the wig or with your natural hair, that's all that matters. When it comes to little girls, I know I didn't choose to have a relaxer. I was 8 years old, and around, how old was I? Like in university, I decided to go natural because I did the weave thing. I did the synthetic for a very long period of time, and it just wasn't my thing. But if you look in the mirror and you say, you know what, I don't like this about myself, that's a deeper insecurity. And it's about us as Black women to teach our Black girls to love themselves no matter what. And that's the biggest issue. And then with the other comment about looking presentable, I'm a nurse, and I went for my first interview. I'm like, Shantae, should I wear my natural hair to my interview? And I'm like, I shouldn't be asking myself that question. And then I decided to go to the interview in my nice afro. I did my bantu nado. I look cute, and I got the job. But it's not about looking presentable. If somebody has an issue with your hair, that is their problem. Do what you have to do in the business world, no matter where it is. Your hair is your beauty. And even if it's art professional, I don't care if your hair is an afro. It's about the content of your work and who you are, not about your hair.